Speaking freedom, giving you the answers to be free. Be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Hey everyone, welcome to Speaking Freedom TV. Again, I am your host, Casey, Dr. Casey, and this is my next guest on the journey to freedom. Can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Casey, for allowing that. It's a joy to be here. My name is Utkarsh Narang. It's been mispronounced in beautiful ways over the years, which is absolutely okay because I understand how culturally diverse the world that we live in. I live here in Melbourne, Australia, so technically I'm in the future. But the idea is that if I were to give you the number of the lottery that's going to happen maybe Sunday evening in the USA, it's not going to work because I truly believe that the future keeps changing itself based on the choices that we make. I'm a learning consultant. I'm an executive coach who specializes in leadership and helping executives be their highest self at work and in life. And I have two boys who are about to turn 14 and 10, and I live here with my lovely wife. And yeah, it's a joy to be here on your show and speak to your audience.
I'm so happy to have you here. It sounds like you have your hands full.
Quite a lot, yes, yes.
So how did you get into your line of work?
So I started. It's a long story. I might go into a monologue, but we'll keep it interesting for folks. 39 years on the planet. 20 of them have been professionally driven, so to say. My first role in life was to be a physical therapist. And so back home in India, my parents were both doctors while growing up, so they always thought that their son would become a doctor too. And I did my master's in orthopedic physical therapy, and I had about three clinics in back home in Delhi, India. It was a very purposeful role because it was well paid. I was taking care of patients who were coming in with their pain and going out with smiles. So never any complaints with that. But I always wanted to have like a deeper impact on the planet. And I always thought like, Utkarsh, how would you as a physical therapist do much? You can only see patients who are physically present in your clinic. But what's beyond that? And that's when in 2012 the dissatisfaction of staying a physical therapist got to me, in a way. And so I started networking. Let's explore. It's a big world. 6.5 billion people at that time maybe on the planet. So through networking I met a professor at Columbia Business School in New York. They had their own startup, two or three people at that time. I said, why don't you hire me? And they're like, Utkarsh, what would you do? I'm like, I'll figure it out. I can do anything that you want, but I got to come into this new world because I think this is an opportunity to touch lives globally. And so there I was, got into that role, corporate job, 2013. Started filming and editing, and so I would be in New York various times in a year for weeks and months, and I would film video lectures on leadership with professors. And as I did that, in the next 8 years, the journey unfolded. And I did a lot of different things with that institute. And it was a beautiful phase of my existence. And then 2020, the pandemic came about, another phase of painfully so, a lot of realization for all of us on the planet. And then so through that, I thought, like, Utkarsh, you could do more with your life. You're still restricting yourself. And that's when I took the leap, became a consultant, an executive coach, trained myself for a year through various programs as to how do you really become a coach to someone, because a coach helped me be my best self. So how do you hold the space for others? And so that's the journey that brings me to being a coach and a consultant.
So I do want to ask a question that I've been wanting to ask someone of your background as far as the pressure to be a physician. Was there a lot of pressure from your parents to be a physician versus the path that you were on? And how is that now that you're further, but still, I believe in alignment because I'm gonna give you a second to answer the question. But when I was younger, I wanted to be a heart surgeon. And I ended up now as a life coach and somebody who focuses on helping others heal. I feel like I'm still doing what I thought that I would do, just in a spiritual way versus a physical one.
Yeah, I think so. One thing I've often been asked, like, Utkarsh, how was childhood? Well, my parents never kind of like forced me that, Utkarsh, you got to become a doctor. There's no other path for you in life. It
Mm-hmm.
just naturally so evolved into my being because
Mm-hmm.
I remember my dad, he had his clinic right on kind of we lived in a house, so one floor was his clinic, and I would, as a child, when I come back from school, I would hang around there. So it never felt that I was out of place in any way,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so it was a choice that I think I fully, in my whole awareness, made. But as I've kind of left that life, I think what I've wanted to and learned to do is to not get my identity be stuck in any phase of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
so today, I don't even relate myself at all to being a physical therapist. The conversations I have on podcasts, or if someone asks me, "Utkarsh, what did you do in your past life?" That's the only moment that this comes up, because I don't think that I'm doing anything that alleviates people of their physical pain. I'm not coaching people to heal them in a way. I'm more forced on kind of, how do you define your values? How do you build your best life? What actions do you need to take? We can relate those things together, but I think I've come far away from being a doctor.
It just it sounds like it's better for you to stay in the present and I mean, because the way I look at life is similar in
Mm,
the concept of kind of teaching structure, teaching people how to do things the correct, like not teaching, helping
mm,
people figure out how to do things the correct way.
mm.
And when I think about going to physical therapy, I'm in physical therapy right now.
Oh,
And when I think about going to physical therapy, a lot of that is them teaching you how to make sure that you don't re-injure yourself. Kind of like with being a business coach or anything in that area, you're kind of helping people not make the previous mistakes that they made before and learning from the things that they did so that they can become better.
absolutely. I think I 100% agree with that, that these two parallels are always there. And this idea of being in the present versus the past versus the future. I recently, it's not that recent, but 6 months ago, gave a TEDx talk, which is on YouTube. If folks want to kind of search my name and TEDx, and Dr. Casey will put all the links in the show notes.
Yes,
But
I
what I said
will.
there, thank you. What I said there is that future is a very man-made concept.
Hmm.
Technically, it's 6:15 a.m. on a Monday morning, while it's Sunday afternoon, evening for you. So I can say I'm in the future. But am I really in the future? And for myself as an individual as well, we can speak about this, that, oh, this is going to happen in the future, that's going to happen in the future. But we never get to live in that future. The future comes and it becomes the present for us. And so
Hmm.
all we have is this present moment. And
Hmm.
why are we so bothered about, we cannot change the past, we
Hmm.
cannot predict the future, all we have the present, and yet we are least focused on that present moment. I think that's an underservice to human life.
So, just curious, and we won't go too deep down this rabbit hole. So, what do you think when you think about people that are, um, I don't want to, I hate the word psychic,
Mm,
but there are people who genuinely can, have a foresight.
mm.
But yeah, you're right. You still can't even predict that because for that to happen, everything has to fall into whatever the sequence of events that would lead to that. And at any moment, one thing could happen. It could be the smallest thing that happened that will change the sequence of events and then change the forecast for whatever could have been. So I agree. No need to answer that question.
As you were asking that question, I was reminded of this movie, Final Destination, if I remember
Hmm.
correctly.
Hmm.
There
Hmm.
were a few series, and I used to love that because they would show in 1 second what's going to happen in the next few seconds, and then everything would play out like that, and terribly so. They did not focus on the good things. They
Right.
wanted to make it really scary for us viewers. But as you're saying, even if like one minute particle shifts its place, everything can shift. And so that's the beauty of life. So who are we to try and predict the future?
Yeah, I totally agree. So, what was the hardest thing that you had a time getting free from and conquering becoming who you are today? Like what was the most difficult portion of that transition?
I think a few things come to mind. One is I think the difficulties never end.
Hmm.
Even where I am today, today is going to be a difficult day. I mean, there's no doubt about that because each day I'm going to try and push myself out of my comfort zone. Each day, growth is going to be something that I value a lot, and so that difficulty is going to kind of come back to me in beautiful ways. What I've done over the period of my life is I've lived my life based on a certain set of values.
Hmm.
The five values that I truly kind of express in everything is discipline, excellence, freedom, growth, and love. And so they keep me sane and they keep me on the track of however I want to design my life. And so that's the most important thing. The other thing is now that was the meta level answer. Now, if I were to come down to walking on this earth, I think the imposter syndrome always walks in because I clearly remember when I left my physical therapy days to get into this new world of filming and editing, leadership lessons, I had no idea what I was doing. I clearly remember that first day when I held that camera and I'd done my kind of runs at the office. I was prepared for it. I'd asked my friends to get filmed by me. But as I was holding that camera and the professor standing in front of me, I was shivering. I was like, Utkarsh, what the you this is like beep. This is like a natural beep. You have no clue what you're doing here. You're a physical therapist. Very soon they're going to recognize, and then they're going to throw you out of here because you don't deserve to be here. You're not educated to be here. You're not prepared to be here. So what the hell makes you feel that you will succeed? And I think by overcoming that through my actions, through the awareness, through the effort that it required, I think having done that a few times now life seems like it's a walk in a park. And I'm not saying that I've overcome that imposter. When I get into a coaching session, even now, and if the client has some challenge which is a little bit difficult for me, I feel like I'm not going to be able to help this person. And that's the imposter that grips us all the time. And I think we have to learn to kind of overcome the imposter by again asking our brain that because you're thinking you'll fail, you're thinking you'll go bankrupt, you're thinking you'll not be able to help this client. But what if you do? And a simple reframe actually just unlocks everything for me, Dr. Casey.
I definitely agree. It is easy, especially before you begin to recognize the fullness of who you are. Um, you could have all these things within you, so many beautiful things, and until you begin to tap in, you won't even recognize what other people see in you. And that is so life shaking and changing when you actually come to yourself, because I remember days when I first moved into this house, and I used to be like, well, what am I doing with my life? At this point I had a degree, I had small children, I just bought a house. Like, I'm doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, quote unquote, at a certain stage in your life. But at that moment, I couldn't figure out what I was doing. But the moment that I tapped into my purpose and I felt purposeful, like I felt
Yeah.
like I was making a difference long term and not just short term little snippets of, oh, well, this might work for a little bit or that might work, but really tapping into the inner core of who I am, it really seemed like life flourished. So, it's easy to get caught up in what you think you're not. It's a
Mm.
powerful tool to overcome and begin to recognize who you truly are. And I really commend you for that, because it is a hard transition, especially becoming a coach of any kind. One, you have all the scammers, you have all these other people who are seeking to mislead, manipulate, and really just take advantage of people. So overcoming that part in itself and making sure, because there are people that charge thousands and thousands of dollars, and they don't offer really anything. They're just saying something that you can go online and Google, versus somebody who has actually applied the information that they're telling you. So they have the knowledge from a different perspective than just, oh yeah, this might work. No, listen, I've done this or I've done that, and I know these things work. And that's what really I believe begins to empower us into really like blossoming into the version that is at hand at that time, because even then that's just a seed for us to continue to grow and continue to blossom.
Absolutely. There's no end product here, right? It's an ever evolving journey, and that's why I said it always stays challenging, because there's more to it. There's more to it. Now, what's that more is something that I think we all should be able to define for ourselves. Because what happens is that in this noise of the world, where it feels that, oh, having $1 million, having that big car, having that big bag, having that big vacation to Paris or wherever, that's where the truth lies. That's where the joy lies. But that's not necessary. It could be someone else's joy, but you need to have the awareness to find what's your joy. And once you do that, I think life just becomes bliss. That's my word. That's my word, where I tell people that if you go through coaching, which actually transforms you and allows you to be your best self in any moment, bliss is what you achieve.
I agree. And a lot of people just have to get comfortable with feeling that bliss more than anything else. Because a lot of times, I think, especially here in the United States, when it comes to religious people, we get used to feeling like we're supposed to be downtrodden or suffering, and then you get stuck in that feeling like if you're doing something good or if you're getting good, then it's something wrong with it, because we're supposed to suffer. And that really makes people live a very unauthentic life
Right.
because of fear. And then that it also makes them live limited, because everything is, well, I don't know if this is, and so it is very refreshing to be able to help people, whether you're a physical therapist or an executive coach, because at the end of the day, both of those are services and purposes that actually help people. I know I've over the last year or so, I've become a massage therapist, and I'm licensed and I do professional massages. But when I leave there, and any client that I go to, it is a phenomenal experience. One, to see a person really not be able to move and then start being able to move. Oh, I couldn't move my neck when I came in here, but now I can move. That
Yeah.
is a fulfilling type of experience that you can have in coaching, but it really depends on the receptiveness of the person. You really have no control over it. And that is a very overwhelming feeling when you're not sure if the person is going to really take the information and apply it and change and grow. And that I think weighs on me. But
Yeah.
as I continue to help people and coach people while I'm giving massages sometimes, because sometimes people want to talk, people going through.
Hi, I'm Dr. Casey, not your typical clinical doctor. I am an ordained minister, but not your typical minister. I am also a certified life coach, love coach, sex coach, solution focused coach, transformation coach, and more. I have a whole lot of information that I would like to help you grow with. And I hope that soon I can help you be the best you that you can be. Confidence, spirituality, and purpose. That's wholeness, complete.
Things, and they need just not, most of the time it's a listening ear, but sometimes they need somebody who's going to say, what, did you think of it like this? Or did you consider that? And it really goes a long way, because now you're not just doing one aspect of it. Now you've covered the whole plethora of what you are filled with. So I understand exactly what you mean.
Beautiful. No, I agree with all of that. And these are very unique journeys that we're taking, and we all need that listening ear, but also someone who can challenge us. But I think I'll go back to that question that you asked. Who are you? I think that's a question worth reflecting on, and it's a very difficult question to answer, because I often ask this to my coaches, that if you were to just start by defining who you are, what would come up? And they'll say, "Oh, I'm an executive at this and this, so and so SaaS company, and so and so," and they'll go on about their accolades, professional and educational, and then they'll tell us about how they're a parent or a husband or a wife or whatever, and then I tell them, shed all of this. I don't care about your education. I don't care about your professional background. I don't care about your relationships. What's left? Who are you? And that's when there's dead silence. There's crickets,
It is
because people
always.
don't know what to answer there. They've not spent enough time to fill their own cups to know what is in there. And then they try and go and serve the world. It never works like that. You have to first very selfishly and that's good selfishness. Start to fill your own cup. Start to think about your own well-being, your own care, your own compassion, kindness to yourself. And that's when the journey begins. And that's a tough journey to take on. That's a very tough journey to take on.
It is. So many people are comfortable in their old patterns of behavior and the things that they've done for so long that, I mean, it's been working. I mean, I'm here,
Exactly.
and it is the
That's
most challenging thing to really sit with yourself. And I think that's what the pandemic and COVID, it didn't do for everybody, because a lot of people, I call it the Band-Aid effect. A lot of people have a lot of Band-Aids, whether it's
yeah,
clothes, shoes, money, job, it's all of these things to cover up who they are in
correct.
the inside. And then when it's time to really, where the rubber meets the road, they don't know who they are. And I always tell people, if nobody came to save you, if
Mm.
everything was like, if nothing existed that's existing that you're contingent upon making your life about, what
Yeah,
would you be? Who would you do? How would you create the life where
yeah,
not so independent, where you don't have other people in your life, but self-sufficient, so it's not a need-based
correct.
interaction. It's purely, I actually like you, so I want to
Yeah.
be around you.
Absolutely. No, beautiful. These are all, and no, sometimes when people listen to this, they feel like, oh, what the hell? I don't need this. I'm self-realized. I understand all of this. But I think everyone should, for once, like try and hire themselves a coach, a good coach, and it's really hard to identify that with all the noise that's out there in the world. It seems everyone's a coach today, and I understand the challenge. But find a way to identify who might you want to work with, and then just do maybe one or a few sessions. I would recommend to just figure out that if that's the right path for you or not.
Yeah, it's the same way that I tell people with massage. Don't get a 90-minute session or an hour or 2 hour session. Start with a hour, see how you like it. If it's a good person that really is effective, then book longer or more
Correct.
sessions. But it is the same thing. And I'm sure it's even more difficult dealing with executives, because a lot of
Yeah.
people, when they've accomplished a lot, it's a
Yeah.
lot harder to get them to
Exactly.
reconsider, and they'll listen, but it's more for the rebuttal than to,
Correct.
okay, I got it, I understand,
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
with the struggles and the challenges that you have faced, how have those changed you as a person for the better?
I think they've made me more resilient. Is what I feel like now. It's a state when I know challenges are going to come. Whenever you start something new, whenever you start posting on LinkedIn, whenever you get on a podcast, whenever you do whatever in life, it's got to be challenging. It's like raising kids. For those who have young kids, you feel like, oh, they're 3 years old and this is the most toughest phase of my entire life. It's not. Wait for them to turn teenagers and then you'll realize. And then there are teenagers who feel like this is the toughest. No, wait for them to get 22 and then you'll realize. So I think the challenges of that come our way, they never end. It's only that we become more resilient, we become
Mhm.
more disciplined also sometimes, because I don't rely on motivation now to do anything for me, because I think it's bullshit. Because I get motivated on a Monday morning, I get motivated on the start of a new year, But come 2 months later, I've forgotten whatever I've committed to. And to me, discipline is something that's more beautiful and more wholesome in a way that allows me to have good things in my life. So yeah, resilience, discipline. Again, the values come back, Dr. Casey, because to me they're just an extension of who I am. And so doing this with a lot of love. I remember when I try and do a sale to a client, I feel like, oh, I need to get this client and this and that. All that kind of back conversation kind wants to come up front. But then I feel like I'm going to do this with a lot of love. If they feel I'm the right person for them, that's great. If they don't, then they should find someone else. Because unless they trust me, there's no point of having that conversation or having that relationship as a coach or a coachee. And so I think the values come to forefront. Over the last 6 years, I would say the values have been very stationary in terms of what they are, but very dynamic in the way that they're expressed on the. And so I tell all my coaches that when we do this work, it's very important for us to figure out those values and see how they're getting expressed in every action that we do throughout our days and weeks.
If there was one thing about your story that you could change, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I sometimes feel like, should I have quit my job during the pandemic? But I feel like I did the right thing. So maybe that's the one thing that I think of, that I'll probably invest in building the brand first and then quit my job. That's the only thing that comes to mind.
I always like asking people this question, because what I realized a few years ago, probably in the course of me writing my books or recording my books, and that is, if you change, like we talked about earlier, if you change one little thing, it could change so many other things. And if you become at peace with who you are, where you are, and get into the mindset that if it's something that I don't like and I'm not at peace about, I can change it, I can grow, I can address those things. But when we change anything, it could change everything. So I'm always kind of curious and excited to hear a person's response, because my next question is normally, well, what would that have changed, long term? Do you think it would have, made your life a whole lot different? Or would it have still led you to where you are now?
Yeah, that's as I'm reflect. So I think now I'm connecting the dots as to why that answer came up. So 2020 December is when I quit my job, and January 1, 2021 started on my own coaching and this and that. And the first few months were amazing. I was able to crack a few deals, which almost made like half a year of salary or something like that that I would have as a full-time job. And I thought, like, why did I not do it early enough? And then come the second wave of COVID, businesses started to stop investing in coaching and this and that. And then I remember October 2021 was the toughest month of my life, because in that month it was clearly remember my bank balance in that month. It was $2. I was eating into my savings, and I'm smiling right now, but shivers go down my spine inside, because it was extremely hard. And I think if I would have not quit my job at that time, that tough space would not have existed. It would have been maybe slightly easier, but who knows? Who could have predicted the future? And the future might have been even bad, might have been even worse, might have been, maybe they would have fired me during the second wave of COVID or something like that. So anything is possible. So I don't know how I would have changed. The fear then also comes up is that, what if I would have never been able to leave that job?
Right.
And then I would not have been having this conversation
we
with you
wouldn't
here.
be having this conversation. I mean, we
Exactly.
could, it would just be a little bit different, because I think that some things kind of end up eventually play out. But it's like the Spider-Verse. You have kids,
Yeah.
and it's like that, I believe. That's how life seems to me at this stage, because sometimes I have dreams about things and they can come to pass, not always, but that it happens. And then, but I know that there's a version of me, if I would not have went to the military, if some things that I did not do, there's another version of me that would have still been who I am, just a different version of what you see.
Yeah, 100%. But again, it comes back to those minute shifts, right? I think it was in Atomic Habits, James Clear's book, or somewhere I've read it, that if a plane from San Francisco changes direction by like a degree when it starts to take off, it could land like 300 miles away from New York if New York was the final destination. So even that small a shift could change the trajectory of an aeroplane. And what about our lives? But imagine this then. How many interactions we miss, how many things we don't do that could have changed the trajectory of life. This podcast that you and I are on right now, what if people start listening to it, but don't listen to it fully because they feel, oh, what's going to happen? But what if they miss something that's going to kind of change the trajectory? I had a coachee reach out to me on Friday, so a few days back. We had a conversation and I had coached him about 2.5 years ago. And he said, Utkarsh, those 6 hours that I spent with you were the most important 6 hours of my life. And through those 6 hours, I've evolved into who I am. He started off a startup. He is now successful and he wants me to coach people in his company now. So it's just massive what can happen with that 1 degree. So don't ever, I think to all the listeners, don't ever not give that opportunity of 1 degree to yourself because your life can change.
So tell us about this TED Talk that you was on. How did that come about? I'm curious.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I've always, and it's been one of those things that's always on the bucket list, right? That you've got to give a TEDx talk because that stage has a lot of credibility, and standing on that red dot still sends goosebumps down my spine, and it was a beautiful moment. And so I was so we came to Australia as a family only 18 months ago. So very early in this beautiful country, moved from India. And as we came here, I started to see like, how do I meet new people? Because I was new here, did not know who to talk to, who to set up, like work with. And so I went to this amazing networking event. Again, truly resist networking events because they're like 100 people in the room. What the hell do I do with all these 100 people? And then the person who invited me said, Utkarsh, just go and talk to like 5 people. And if you can, out of 100, talk to 5, that's success. Out of those 5, someone applied on the TEDx, saw that on LinkedIn. I thought, what the hell, let me apply too. But then the imposter came back. He's like, Utkarsh, you applied for TEDx's in India and no one ever hired you. No one ever wanted you because they felt like maybe your story is not good enough. And here you are, you come to Australia and you're saying you will apply in Australia and get this? What the hell makes you think like that? Because again, no one in Australia believes in you. But I did apply. It was a stringent process. It was an amazingly done event. And then I was on the stage 19th of March, if I remember the date correctly, 2024. I spoke about my journey with fear, Dr. Casey. And as I built that talk, I was like, I've done these career changes. I moved from one country to the other. My family, we're all so brave. We're so courageous. So I'll speak about courage on the stage. And then as I went to my kind of core group that I have inner friends, inner circle, one of them said, but Utkarsh, was courage something that was innate within you, or did fear drive you through this journey? And I was taken aback because like fear, how do I think about fear as a friend? I've always resisted fear, that we've been taught not to be fearful. We've been taught not to fear things and this and that. But in that moment, he just shifted my perspective. And so on the stage, I spoke about how we have these fears within us that stop us from moving forward. But fear is not a limiting force. Fear is actually, it has dual nature. And so it can be a motivator if you look at it from that lens. And so I share 3 stories from my life. It's called Can Fear Push Us to Be Courageous? And I enjoyed that experience, truly enjoyed that experience.
That sounds very exciting, especially with the struggle of not getting it in your home country and then going somewhere else and the floodgates open. And I'm sure just that TED Talk alone leads to a lot of business and a lot of open doors.
Yeah, it makes you feel credible in the space, right? And it's a very heartfelt talk that, I mean, it does not have like 1 million views right now. Maybe your podcast will get it there, but it still just gives me a lot of confidence, somewhat validation to my story, and allows me to then reach out to people and say that, hey, I did this, where I've bared kind of my soul on the stage. Can we have another conversation about this? So it absolutely helps.
Yeah, it gives for people that need those markers in order to feel like they can trust you or like you're credible. It's definitely a booster for that. So if you could give advice to someone praying for an answer or looking for an answer, what advice would you give?
I would say three things. The first one is the work lies in you. If you're not ready to do the work on your own self, on your inner self, on your inner core, whatever word you want to use for it, on your soul, whatever word you want to use for it, if you're not ready, on your mindset, if you're not ready to do that inner work, nothing's going to help. So that's number one. Second, to do that inner work, you need support. You need someone to assist you on that journey. It could be a coach, a mentor. I'm inclined towards coaches, but it could be a coach, mentor, advisor, whoever you can find. Find a great book that you can read. But ultimately, so that's number two. The third one is you got to do some action about it. You got to wake up the next morning, try to change your life, because if you don't act, no one can raise your hand. If you resist raising your hand, no coach in the world, no mentor in the world, no one can do anything. Imagine Kobe Bryant on the basketball court. If he would have not wanted to dunk the ball into the basket, Phil Jackson standing on the outside would not have done anything. So it's up to you to dunk that ball into the basketball, and up to you. If you want to do it, go do it. You can change your life. But if you don't,
Do you have any books or any products that you would like to tell us about at this time?
absolutely. Would love to share with our folks. So this is a Ignite Life Journal. It's actually a do-it-yourself DIY. That's the Gen Z lingo, where I've put in everything that I do as a coach into activities and exercises with space for people to write. I've shared about my journey, my stories, and if you want to pick it up, it's on Amazon. It's called the Ignite Life Journal, and it'll help you define who you are, what your values are, and then allow you to work on your career, relationships, money, and yourself.
So if people wanted to find you, please give us the information to be able to follow you and to keep up with you.
Absolutely. So LinkedIn is the best place where you can do that. Dr. Casey is going to put all the links in the show notes. So I'm not going to spell out my name here. You can read on the screen, but find me on LinkedIn, find me on the social media handles that you use, and look forward to our conversation. Just reach out to me, DM me that you saw me here on this podcast, and I'd be honored to have a conversation.
All right. Thank you so much. I really enjoy speaking with you. You have so much insight and wisdom, and I know your clients are thankful for you.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was a joy to speak with you, Dr. Casey.
All right. Until next time. Bye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Casey, Dr. Casey. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you, and we hope that we're able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.